Yasa Scherete. My name's Clayton the Roman, and today I wanted to get back into storytelling mode. This vlog started off with me telling my story and the history of my conversion, and I kind of wanted to get back to that for at least one video. I've been talking about maybe some more controversial topics in my previous episodes, but I just wanted to share a really meaningful story with all of you. I want to say, first of all, that a lot of the factual details about the saint, the topic of today, which is Saint Spyridon, I got from other sources and from other places around the internet. I can't possibly cite to them all, and some of them I don't even remember where I got them from. So just one quick disclaimer as far as that goes. However, I will say there are two really good videos on Saint Spyridon. One from Tresagian Films, and I'll put a link to that in the description, and also one from Bible Illustrated, and I'll try to put a link to that in the description as well. So if you want to learn more about Saint Spyridon, please go on there and watch those wonderful and entertaining videos. So here is an icon of the saint we are talking about today. You can always recognize Saint Spyridon from his rather unusual hat, which is a traditional shepherd's hat from the Isle of Cyprus. And that's sort of where our story begins today. As I said, this channel is generally a vlog about my conversion. And I suppose, it's always difficult to figure out where do you start with a story about converting to Orthodoxy. I'm going to make an argument today that you could start my story of conversion back in the very recent year of 270 AD with the birth of the saint, Saint Spyridon. Saint Spyridon was born in 270 AD in the little town of Asha, or Askia, on the island of Cyprus. And he was an ordinary layman, a shepherd. He had a wife, he had a daughter, but he was well known in the area for his piety. And when his wife passed away, he joined a monastery. His daughter joined a convent, and he was elected the bishop of Tremithus, which is a slightly larger town, or it was back then, just to the south of Asha. And just a little bit of geography here. As you may or may not be aware, the island of Cyprus, which is an ethnically Greek island, but it's its own independent country, is divided between the portion that's under the control of the Republic of Cyprus and a part of the island that's under the control, under the occupation of a Turkish puppet government called, I believe it's the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. I may be wrong about that name. So both of these are in the just north of the demarcation line between those two entities. So actually, St. Spyridon's hometown and the place where he was bishop, where he lived in a monastery, and where eventually he reposed, are both north of the border, which is very sad because the Turkish military prevents anyone from going there and visiting the tomb of Saint Spyridon. Luckily, however, Saint Spyridon's relics aren't there, and we'll talk about that in just a moment as I continue my story. So Saint Spyridon, he has always been converting people. It's sort of one thing that he does in his own way. Saint Spyridon was born around 270, so he lived during the sort of final persecutions of the Eastern Roman Empire, the persecutions of Diocletian and Maximinus. And he was also a participant in the First Ecumenical Council of Nicaea. So he actually took part in in codifying the Nicene Creed that we recite at each Divine Liturgy. So he's a very important saint in that way, and that's probably why he was sort of well known to subsequent generations, was largely because of his participation in the First Ecumenical Council. He's well known for a miracle that happened at the First Ecumenical Council, and that's usually depicted in his icon by him having a burning brick or potsherd in his hand. If you look very carefully at this picture, I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's a little trickle of water coming down from the brick. And this comes from a story that he, although Saint Spyridon was himself uneducated, when he went to the council, he was incensed by the what he considered the blasphemous arguments that he was hearing from the Arians. And so he stood up to try to defend the Holy Trinity, and he held up a brick and he said, "See, here's a brick. It's composed of fire and clay and water, and yet it's one brick." And he was making an illustration of the Holy Trinity. Maybe don't take the illustration, too seriously. Of course, you know that it's a little more complicated than that, but it's a good illustration of what he believed in. And the story goes that as he squeezed the brick, it burst into flame, and the water ran down his arm, and then his hands were left with the dust to show the truth of what he was saying to the Council of Nicaea. And so that's why he's always depicted with that burning brick in his hands. Saint Spyridon, of course, as we know, his arguments, together with those of the other Nicene fathers, including Saint Nicholas, were successful. And that's why we know to believe in the Trinity today. Of course, we know that the Holy Spirit was preserving this in the church. And he returned to Cyprus and lived a peaceful life. He was not a martyr bishop. He lived through 2 persecutions. He went to the council, and he came back, and he lived in peace in his monastery as a bishop until about the year 348. And there his relics remained on Cyprus for many years, actually for about 400 years. In the 8th century, I believe it was, Cyprus came under attack from the Saracens, and so his relics were moved from Cyprus to Constantinople for safekeeping. Of course, eventually Constantinople came under attack by the Turks, and they were moved from Constantinople to Corfu, where those relics have just gained in popularity as far as a place of pilgrimage and prayer, especially since Saint Spyridon is credited for saving Corfu from a number of plagues, from a famine, and from a Turkish invasion. In fact, if you go to Corfu today, you'll go to the old town of Corfu, and you have the walls around the city. And if you look up, there's a huge gash in the wall. And one story is that there was a plague afflicting Corfu, and people in a vision saw Saint Spyridon appearing and beating the plague demon out of the city. And as the plague demon fled, it crashed into the wall and left a huge gash as it fled the city of Corfu. So Saint Spyridon is, of course, very strongly venerated, very well venerated in Corfu. There's a huge church in his name, Agios Spyridon, which was built, I believe, about the 16th century. In fact, I think it was the 16th century. And we'll talk a little bit about the church later. And you'll often hear people from Corfu, their names are, Spiro or Spyridon, or Spiros. He's also very widely venerated on the island of Cyprus. So he's popular in both places, and of course throughout the Greek-speaking world. Saint Spyridon is a very popular saint. Okay, so that's the story of Saint Spyridon. How does that weave into my story? Well, I have to tell you, my wife is a bit better traveled than I. She had actually gone to Corfu many years before I did, or a few years before I did. And she went and she prayed for a husband. So the joke in our family is that when she went and prayed to Saint Spyridon for a husband, Saint Spyridon said, well, I'm fresh out of Orthodox boys for you right now. Here, let me make one. And he picked me. So I've always associated the intercession of Saint Spyridon and Saint Matrona too. I do have to mention her, although I'll save that story for another day. But I always associate the intercession of Saint Spyridon with my conversion, and I have a very strong affinity for him because to me he reflects the sort of beauty of the early church, the someone who endured persecutions, someone who spoke simply, someone who managed to convert hearts, and someone who served his people in peace nonetheless, even though all of this sort of crazy stuff and persecutions and difficult times were going on. So I have a real affinity for Saint Spyridon, even if I didn't think it was because of him that I became Orthodox. I think if I had discovered Saint Spyridon earlier, I would have had a very strong devotion to him. But as it is, he's really one of the first saints that, after my patron saint, Saint Volodymyr, that I developed a really deep spiritual attachment to after I became Orthodox. So this story goes on, however. That'd be enough to say, well, my wife prayed at Agio Spyridon for a husband, and here I am, converted and all. Actually converted before I met my wife. So, he was doing good work and doing it quickly. Sorry, I thought I heard some noise over there. But it goes on because after my wife and I got married, we were trying to find a place to go on our honeymoon, and a place that we could actually afford. Because I'm a new lawyer, as most of you know, and I'm a Latin teacher, so we had to kind of figure out a fairly budget-friendly place that we could actually go on our honeymoon. And we were just racking our brains. Where can we go? And we had just happened to be watching a show, a very popular TV show that's set on Corfu. We just had watched a couple of episodes, and I said, yeah, what about Corfu? And this is when my wife said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I went to the Church of Saint Spyridon to pray for a husband at his relics. And I said, really? Saint Spyridon, you say? I had no real idea who Saint Spyridon was. I wasn't really familiar with him. Although he is considered a Catholic saint, he's, I don't think, as widely venerated as he is in the Orthodox world. So I didn't really know much about him, or indeed anything about him. So we said, well, that settles it. Let's do our honeymoon on Corfu so that we can say thank you for bringing us together. And that's what we did. We actually went to Corfu for our honeymoon, and we had a wonderful time. I'm sure I will probably tell you even more stories about my time on the island of Corfu and sort of Orthodox discoveries that I made while I was there, or things that surprised me as someone who was raised Baptist in a Baptist country. But we went to Corfu on our honeymoon, and I think we ended up visiting Saint Spyridon's church like 3 times. It was kind of ridiculous how many times we went back, because every time we went, it was just such spiritual power as we approached the relics of Saint Spyridon we just couldn't stay away. We just wanted to see it one more time, wanted to be there with the saint one more time. So a little bit of preview for all of you who may be thinking about visiting the Church of Saint Spyridon. I have to say, if you are used to Orthodox churches in the United States, so if you are used to sort of bright, beautiful icons that have been freshly painted or repaired, and that are in flecked gold leaf and in perfect repair, and if you're used to a very Byzantine style of architecture for churches, St. Spyridon's Church is going to be a big disappointment. Is going to be a big disappointment for you, because it's actually built in kind of the interior has a kind of Renaissance style. In fact, the iconostasis looks like the front of I think it's Baroque church. Maybe Renaissance is a better term for it, but it looks like the front of a church. It's a very sort of unique look. The icons are very naturalistically painted. They're not painted like, very strict Byzantine iconography. And I think that's wonderful because, I think in the States we kind of get used to thinking that Orthodoxy only has one expression, only one way that it looks throughout the world. But actually, that's not true. In fact, it's very much not true. Churches have all different kinds of iconography, especially in Orthodox countries. So, it has a very sort of naturalistic iconography, except over on the right side. So if you imagine you go in the church, and as you go in, you go in I guess that would be the north side. There's an entryway. You go in the north side, and the iconostasis is, of course, the east. It's over to the right. Yes, the right. And if you were to face the altar, over to the side, there is a little chamber where the relics, and by relics I mean the entire body minus the arm, of Saint Spyridon are kept. And actually, that little room is sort of very Byzantine, very old traditional iconography. So it's very wonderful in there in terms of atmosphere. And at certain times in the day, especially after Divine Liturgy, you can actually go in there and they will open the casket and you can kiss his feet. If you have anything that you would like to bless, like an icon or a prayer bracelet. In fact, I'm wearing a prayer bracelet right now that was blessed at the feet of Saint Spyridon. You can bring those up, and usually there'll be a priest there to assist you with blessing those. You can also it might seem a little superstitious to some, but you can go get what are called wish plates. So you think of a prayer request, like say you're wanting to pray for healing for your leg. Well, you'll find a plate that has a little picture of a little carved out picture of a leg, and it's a sort of a silver plate, and you take that to the priest, and he will place that on a big tray on top of the casket of the saint. So your prayer sort of stays with the saint as you're there. Of course, there's plenty of places to get candles and light those around the church. One of the most blessed things, if you go through the gift shop, because there had to be a good gift shop and bookstore, you can go and they will give you little pieces of fabric. I don't know how often they do this, but it's got to be a few times a year. They'll give you little pieces of fabric. And these are actually from the vestments of the relics. that are changed regularly. So his vestments, of course, have to be changed on a regular basis. His shoes actually need to be changed most of all because they wear out. He is known as a walking saint. And so the story is that his shoes wear out because he walks all around the island, helping people with his intercession. And when they change his shoes and his other vestments, they're cut up, and those little pieces of fabric are then given out to the faithful. So I managed to get one of these little pieces of fabric, and I also bought this little box that opens up so that I had a place to keep it. And this has a little icon of Saint Spyridon as well. And so this is what I wear everywhere. It also has a cross on the back, so it doubles as my cross. And it's, of course, a very precious relic to me. And it constantly reminds me of the importance that Saint Spyridon has had in my life. Being able to go there and venerate his relics, being able to spend time in his church is something that, just confirmed for me the decision that I had made to join the Orthodox faith. I knew that I was Orthodox when I converted, when I got chrismated. I knew that I had changed and I had ceased being a traditionalist Roman Catholic, and that I was now a member of the Orthodox Church. That was in my head. The first time I felt Orthodox was when I was in Saint Spyridon's church. The first time that I said, oh, I want to be a part of this. I am a part of this. That was in Saint Spyridon's church. And that is one reason why he is such a meaningful saint to me. I hope this story encourages you. I hope it encourages you most of all because, of course, I love the saints. I love Saint Spyridon, and he's very meaningful to me. I hope this encourages you to seek his intercession. Hope it encourages you to visit Corfu. And if you are in search of love, well, I hope you will seek out Saint Spyridon for that too, because I'm living proof that it works. So I'm praying for you all. Please pray for me. And adiosas.